8 of Season 3 of Matire Gemi, a bi-weekly podcast where we help you learn the Kikuyu culture, history, and heritage in English and in a fun, light-hearted way. I'm Jerry Wadiho, your anchor, na Demojiro wa Barea Kehara. And as always, I'm joined by Wayaki Wageshaga and Kingori Wakanyi. Today, we'll be talking about the man, the legend. A man who said that my blood will water the tree of independence. Who is this man? Who is this legend? Who is this prolific writer? Who is this uniter, this great leader that led the Liberation Army and helped bring the end of colonialism close to us? Who is this man who fought for our lands? Who is this man who fought for our freedom? Who is this man who fought for our way of life, our spirituality? This man is none other than Field Marshal Dedan Kimathi. And today, we tell his story in a unique way. So I urge you to lean in and help us honor the history, the life of this great man. Well, here we are. Wayaki, what are we talking about today?
Today, we're talking about a culmination of this series of heroes and heroines we've been talking about. This is a hero of a hero, a legend, a living legend who is still with us today here in spirit, but was instrumental to the resistance movement, to Kenya's freedom. We are talking about Dedan Kimathi.
Wow. All right. So why don't you introduce
Field
yourself?
Marshal Dedan Kimathi. Let me add that. Yes, my name is Wayaki Wageshaga, Mushara wa Barea Muturi, Hamari Kamawada ni Dewa Mwagi, Kashiarone Maina, and I'm happy to be here and I'm excited to hear this story and to contribute to his legacy.
Beautiful. Kingori.
All right. Oyo ne Kingori wa Kanyi, Moboi wa Barea Marigo. And, you know, we're going to be talking about a gentleman who hails from my area. Yes. So today, you'll give me permission, as I tell this story about Dedan Kimathi, to tell it from some personal lenses. Because his story weaves in with the story of our family in some areas. So you'll hear me talk about contributions from our family. So I think it's going to be a unique way of telling the story that we know a lot about Dedan Kimathi. I mean, Dedan Kimathi is the iconic freedom struggle. He's like our Che Guevara. You know, you think about the Mau Mau movement and you see that image of, you know, him in dreadlocks.
Yeah.
And unfortunately in cuffs.
Right.
But who was he? Right?
Yes.
So we're going to talk about that. So, you know, Dedan Kimathi was born in 1920. He was born to a gentleman called Waciûri, and his mother was called Waciûri. And he was born Dedan Kimathi wa Waciûri. That's the name that they gave him from the onset. And this is in a village called Vegege, again in Teto, North Teto. And he went to school at the age of 15. Those days, if you can even make it to school, it was amazing. And he went to Karona Ine primary school, and later he did attend Tomotomo Secondary for a short time.
Okay.
But, you know, what we learn about him as a youngster is that he had actually a very calm temperament. He was a gentleman, and his friends really liked. And he was likable. He was a likable character, but he was also very intolerant to any injustice. You know, so he would defend his friends easily, and he would defend himself easily. And it kind of gave him a reputation of a rebel to his teachers, employers, because he had that. If he felt like you're, impeding on his rights,
Yeah.
he easily would get agitated and just, want to do something about it.
Right.
He's said to have been very tall, light-skinned man. Who in 1938 went through the circumcision, Urua. He went through the initiation to be a man. That happened in Hororo. And joined what they call Dhukiamataha or Regeshori, Rika, and regiment of young men. Soon after that, he did join the King's African Rifles, and that's the thing around 1941. So this is when World War II was peaking. He would be deployed to Burma. The story says that he was kind of rebellious to his leadership there, so he didn't stay long. He was kicked out, or either kicked out or deserted. The story is not always, it depends on who's telling the story. But 3 months is all he ever served. And then he found his way back. It also kind of is the same time that Ngaraguya Miaga is happening, 1941-ish to 43.
What is that? The famine.
The famine, the cassava famine, if we would translate directly. And it's interesting because what's happening is very key to understanding the resistance movement with this Ngaragu. A lot of farming is now in the hands of the colonial settler.
Right.
Lands have been taken away from the Mogekuyu, and they've been pushed to more and more arid areas. And so the thing that they're now leaning on is crops that were not always traditional.
Like what?
So anyway, let me take a step back on the diet issue. There was a time where Mogekuyu ate a lot of miaga, cassava. There was a time that was like one of the main staple foods that we ate.
Okay.
Like we used to make fufu. Like gima. When we say gima, gima is kima, to pound something.
Right.
What it was initially was things like cassava. And then corn kind of became a bigger thing. It was always there, but it became bigger with the colonial farming.
It became more central.
It became more central.
Yeah.
And it was happening now in large scale by the colonizers that were doing that, the settlers. And so it changed the diet for all of Kenya to where corn was being pushed to the forefront. And so people, now githeri was big and ugali was secondary, but now githeri was a thing people were eating. And don't forget, we're talking about the diet really changed because the traditional foods were like greens and things of that nature, potatoes, things, all manner. It was very varied.
Yams.
Yeah, yams. And now githeri is becoming like the poor man's dish that's balanced, that you can get away with and you can eat. And remember, people are being taxed. They're getting poorer. They don't have livestock. We'll talk about something called kifagio that came soon after. Cattle and goats have been taken away. So now people are becoming poorer, and they're eating githeri, and then the corn stops coming in during this Ngaraguya Miaga because there's a genuine famine, but it's exacerbated by exportation of grain. Now, Bengal famine is another very popular famine that we read about in the same year in 1942, 43, 44. The Bengal famine is famous for killing millions of Indians. Right? And we see something happening there where Churchill at this time is the Prime Minister in England, or the Britain, and they decide that they're going to redirect food or ship food away from India to support the war effort in Europe.
During that famine.
During the famine. And people die in droves. Millions. I don't know what the exact numbers are. We are affected by the same politic.
Oh, yes.
At that same time. So it really exacerbated we don't even have numbers of how many people died during that particular famine. But if you talk to, because this is recent enough, if you talk to a grandparent today, they will tell you about
They'll remember.
Yeah. And it really drove people to a level of desperation that, that was untold. But around this time, going back to Dedan Kimathi, that's when he kind of, once he returns home, he goes to Tomotomo Secondary School for a little bit. He could no longer pay fees and he was expelled.
So let me pause you there. So he returned from, he fought in the Second World War.
He did.
Yeah. Okay. So
Yeah,
he was
did.
returning home from the Second World War.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He did. He didn't fight for as long as people sometimes imagine.
Right.
But he did fight.
For like
Okay.
3 months, right?
Something like that. Yeah.
Okay.
It'll be hard to find like
Exact,
accurate numbers,
yeah.
but that's kind of part of the story. Says he wasn't there for too long.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So he's back home. He's gone to school. He's left, and this is kind of where we meet him because around that time, 44 or something or so of the sort, he goes to work at a farm called Darua Farm in Kiani, kind of a remote area. People who know those areas close to Laikipia, it's pretty kind of dryish areas. He goes to work for Mzungu. And that's where he meets our family because that's where our family was actually located at that time. We've been kicked out of Teto.
Right.
People had to go look for jobs, and the only place to do it was
The settler farms.
Yeah.
And this is one of those farms that such farm. So our family was there. So my dad was now a youth, probably 8, 9, 10 years at that time where Kimathi was around, and while Kimathi was there, he's known to have kind of been some kind of a supervisor role, is what he was playing in this farm. And everyone's time was required of them during the day. The people belong to the Mzungu during the day.
Yeah.
In the evening, Kimathi started teaching kids how to read and write. And this is how my dad learns to read and write.
Wow. Directly
from Kimathi.
Yeah.
Wow.
So this is what he was doing in the evening. And then at night, the kids would seed ground for the older kids. And my 2 uncles, my dad's or elder brothers, my dad is the last born. His elder brothers would now go to listen to the seditious, juicy information coming from the Kimathi. He's now starting to radicalize them.
Yeah.
And this is the way now Dedan Kimathi starts, because he has ideas, but he doesn't have a platform.
Yeah.
So he's talking to these young people and telling them this is not right. This gentleman who's like concerned about the injustices starts to really talk about what's going on, and that's kind of what starts to happen. Now in 45, there's a thing called Kifagio operation, and it had started earlier. The destocking actually had started even in the 20s, but it finally gets to the area where our family is living.
What is it? What is this Kifagio?
Kifagio is a destocking, like literally taking animals away from Africans.
Wow. That was an actual policy.
Government policy,
Wow.
right?
Yeah.
And so in this area,
First, they took the lands.
yes,
Then the definition of wealth, which is the livestock.
yes,
Right.
because it's preventing you guys from being destitute enough to work for them. So they put up a policy, and the policy was you cannot have more than 5 goats. I want you to imagine what that means to a Moekoyo. You can't, ratio is not a thing. Because you can't even amass enough goats to ratio their 100 you're supposed to. And
Wow.
any self-respecting Moekoyo had hundreds of goats.
Goats, yeah. If not thousands.
If not thousands. And so here they come and they say, nope. And they take them, first to themselves, they take the best, and anything they don't want, they just slaughter. This is what's happening. So in this particular area, in the Laikipia area, the Kiani area, there was actually a Mzungu who had an agency called Kuvu Kuvu Agency.
Kuvu.
The Mzungu was called Siton. And that was his job, destocking.
Wow.
And he'd come in, he's like a big burly dude with his ragtag, workers, and their job were to haul away livestock, and sometimes use those opportunities to even, break you, Like, remember we talked about Dorome Shiageshego. I don't know if you remember that. Like lambs that were kept inside
for Magogona.
For Magogona.
Yeah, in the woman's house.
In the woman's house. Like beautiful, blemish-free.
Right.
Were meant for God.
Fattened, basically.
They would come in and just slit at the throat of those Dorome and just let the thing run away and just bleed and die.
For no reason other than
horrify you, And the Wazir would be so incensed and just so pained. It broke a lot of people's spirits, just seeing their flocks being decimated like that. And the part of the reason why they could easily do it in areas like this is because, remember, our family is a squatter family living on the land of this Mzungu, quote unquote. And so you don't have too many rights. You're within there. And the Mzungu is just saying, I don't want you having that many cattle. It's not good for whatever reason. Yeah. And then they come and they fagia. And that's why you call it fagia, kufagia, to sweep.
To sweep with a broom.
Yeah, so that's what's happening. So people are just, from Dedan Kimathi's perspective and people in Nyeri, that's what's happening to them during this time. It's just adding to the pain of what they're experiencing. You've already, you no longer have your land. Now you can't even have animals. You're being taxed. Any things are it's getting worse every single day.
And there's a drought on top.
And the reason why you don't have the food is because food is being rerouted.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so it just becomes, an untenable situation, and a lot of the youth start rebelling. Yeah. So, but, he left there soon. He left that after that Kifagio thing. It really pissed off a lot of people. Even our family left. They were like, hey, we can't
sustain ourselves.
Yeah, let's go back to Teto and see how we're going to survive, even if it's not going to be great. But after that, he tried various jobs. It is told that he did some teaching.
Yeah, he taught.
Yeah, he did clerical roles in different places. In 46, it is said that he becomes a disciple of KAU, now Kenya Africa Union at that time. Which is at this point really at the forefront of agitating for independence. He was attending meetings frequently, kind of kept himself informed. And then he gets married to Elsie Mokami, who we will be talking about later in the season.
Yeah.
Around 1949. They get married, and then, of course, they would have a beautiful family later. So in 1952, fast forward a little bit, he's elected the Secretary General of KAU in the Thompson Falls area.
What was KAU doing?
Kenya African Union. So
was
this
it an
is
agitation movement? Give us some context.
It's a political party, right?
At this point, it's a legit political party. I think they even have representation in LegCo, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah.
Like first, Akina, Eliud Mathu are now real politicians representing African interests. I think Moi is now with a different outfit. But these people are now, they're being heard, but it's not working out. So now KAU would have been the predecessor of, came after KCA, Kikuyu Central Association, that had now at that point been banned.
Right.
And so this is now the new way that they can participate politically. So he was there. So he was preaching, about what they should be doing. He was moving around. He was informing the masses, and he just wanted to see that they get their land back. So he was moving around the area of Thompson Falls, which is now in Nyahururu, Olkalao, an area called the Shao, and really most of Nyeri district was kind of like his area where he was moving around and agitating. So at this point, I think, is when they start to administer oathing. Because now they're becoming pretty radicalized.
Yeah.
This is beginning of 52.
Okay.
And the Mau Mau, now people are joining Mau Mau. It's not Mau Mau. It's people have been already moving, doing different things, but there isn't like a central command, but there's a lot of resistance because it was just organic. Initially, people were just upset. They're like, no, I'm not going to do this anymore. People have left their mashamba. People are like, we're not going to be forced to do this. So there's an organic movement. But now we know for sure that beginning of 52, he's administering oaths.
Okay.
And I don't know if you know what we're talking about when we say administering oaths. Maybe, Wayaki, you can explain that a little bit.
So there's actually an interesting book called The Power of the Oath. It talks about how the Mau Mau would administer oaths. And an oath, even previous to the Mau Mau movement, was something that we use in our culture to create binding covenants, not agreements, covenants. And it would be a covenant between the two parties taking the oath and God, which would have severe ramifications or results if the covenant was not kept or if you went against the covenant.
Yeah.
So our culture and many other cultures view oaths as very serious covenants that have a binding spiritual tie that is, if breached, would have severe consequences for the person breaching the oath. So when we say he started administering oaths, it means the people who are joining the resistance had to get into a covenant to deliver certain things that they were supposed to do and not to go against the oath.
So how was the oath? Was there blood involved? Like just high level, what's involved in the oathing?
That's a good question. I don't think we want to go into the details of what was in the oath in terms of the materials used. I think that's a subject for, not on camera discussion. But many things were used to administer oaths that are actually in the public domain. Certain things like we hear about Korigadege, which was a way to administer an oath. We hear about the stone called Kîmathi that had 7 holes. There were several instruments used by the Mogekoyo to administer an oath.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, let's continue with Dedan. Mr. Kimathi.
So back to Field Marshal. At this point, he's not Field Marshal
yet.
Back to Dedan Kimathi. By early 52, actually, most of Gikuyu country had taken their first oath. This oath was
men and women.
Everybody. And probably even children. Everyone was taking an oath at this point where they were, they were kind of putting their
heart and
soul into resisting. Right.
And what's amazing is this is around 1952, so it took us a good 11 or so years,
exactly.
right?
It's building up.
Right.
By this point, literally everyone has taken that oath.
Right.
And everybody's already we're on the same page. You're either on the side of the home guard or you're now part of the Mau Mau resistance.
Yeah.
And it's an organic thing that's just happening.
Yeah.
And these leaders are coming together. And now, even at this point, leaders of Kau are coordinating efforts now. There's real coordination. Most of the 50s, proper coordination of Mau Mau movement has happened. And so even the oathing is said to have been led kind of centrally from within the Kau coordination, even though they always used to say, no, we're not the ones doing it.
Right. It was a secret.
It was a secret. Yeah. And even within Kau, people like Bildad Kagia are said to have been in the inn, and people like Jomo Kenyatta were not. Like there was a secret within
even
within the secret of people who are actually the ones who are coordinating Mau Mau movement and doing the oath taking. So that and I think it was intentional, so that they would allow the face of Kau to speak and say what they know without necessarily
associating themselves with
exactly. And it's true, they didn't know, so whatever they were saying, they believed it. But so this is where we see, militarization is happening. They're learning how to do things like scouting, people are being taught these activities particularly in that area of Nyeri. And this is what then Kimathi is now involved in the second warrior oath. That one might include more paraphernalia, but we're not going to get into it. But this is a bit more serious, right? And there are many oaths, by the way, within the warrior oath codes. But now, most of the devoted people, there were people like, Stanley Mathenge, General Shaina, among others, are in the forefront at this point and are very well organized in, obviously everyone is a volunteer, nobody was being paid. And they're ready to lead. And they're already fighting, they're raiding, there's proper skirmishes are happening everywhere. So, of course, towards the end of 52, things really escalate. And they escalated because on October 7th, 1952, Mau Mau eliminated Paramount Chief Warohio, who was the darling of the colonial government. Yani, I think he used to drive a Rolls Royce or something. He was really, it was a Buick.
A Buick, yeah. Okay.
In Kikuyu, we call it Bioki. He used to drive, and so he was so beloved by the colonial government because he was their main pillar. And he represented everything. They're like, if only we could have two more of these guys, and it would be set. So October 7th, 52, he's assassinated in a very humiliating fashion. Very humiliating.
How?
There are photos. Just go look. And after that elimination then there's another elimination later that month of Senior Chief Deri Wangobe. This name should be familiar. This is Wangobe Waihora's son, who has now become a collaborator.
Whoa! Wangobe that we talked about in episode 3.
Exactly.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, and it's an interesting story because as Wangobe Waihora was passing on, he had identified Deri Wangobe, who was 12, as the person to take over the mantle, and had urged the other Kiama elders to make sure he doesn't grow up without a father. So they nurtured him, and he did become this chief. But for some reason, somewhere down the line, he turns. And when I talked to my dad, because they knew him, they were saying, he wasn't actually a bad chief. He really tried to guard his people and protect them. But there were things that were being asked to do, including my own father. They were being asked to dig moats, around villages. Now, this was either Amiro had happened. And basically, I don't know if you know this, but at this point, Kikuyus are living in concentration camps.
They've
been moved.
Tunnels that you can't
Jump
cross
over.
over.
You can't jump. They've dug those tunnels, those moats,
To keep
huge
you-
trenches.
Yeah.
And then they've set these spikes, nyabo,
Yeah.
inside them. And they're trying to separate the Mau Maus and the people and kind of make sure there's no contact and no support. But they were still crossing and they were still getting food and supplies and they were still coming in and giving oaths inside those colonial era villages. But now the digging of things like moats was such a treacherous... you're talking about a village with thousands of people. So, don't imagine at CG 100 huts.
Right.
We're talking about a huge area. And then you have to fence it. And then you have to dig trenches around it, huge moats, huge enough to where you don't think Mau Maus will make it. I want you to visualize what that makes.
This is a prison.
Actually pictures.
Yes.
There are pictures of this on
Huge.
In several books on how the moats looked.
Exactly. It is inspired by castle mentality in the Europe, where everyone was living
Outside,
behind a particular fence, a wall, and then a huge moat were being dug.
Moats or even like rivers.
Yes,
or
and rivers,
water bodies.
Yeah.
That people could not cross over.
Yeah, so this is something they knew very well how to do, right?
Yeah.
And they were trying to recreate it in these villages. And they knew it works. It limits, and even psychologically.
Yeah.
So this is what's happening. And the digging of the moats, because my father was involved, he said he almost, he knew he was actually pretty sure he was going to die. How gruesome it was because he was a youth. He was a really young boy. And it was at that point that he was like, I have to get out of here.
Yeah.
And he managed to convince this guy who was a teacher at a local school that, hey, I can help you teach. You know, I can help you teach. I can be your
Assistant.
helper.
Yeah, can be a teaching assistant.
Yeah, and he was given the job. But when he got the job, he was given nothing. He wasn't even given a cup of tea for his labor. And the guy was mgumu kabisa, like guy they gave nothing. But anyway, but maybe he didn't have it to give, right?
Yeah.
So, but this is what's happening in that time.
Yeah.
I think life is very tough,
Very
and everyone you talk to will tell you,
Yeah.
life was extremely hard. People were hungry, they were tired, they were overtaxed, they were under constant threat of violence. You know,
Kipande system.
any time anything could happen. Yani you were living in fear.
You are a prisoner.
You're a prisoner
You are a
Pretty
slave.
much,
in your
yeah.
own
Yeah.
land.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what's happening. So, and once Chief Deriwang Obe was killed in this area, Warohio had been killed in near Nairobi. Now in Nyeri, Deri has died in the same month, and in between there, that's when the state of emergency was declared. In between the two deaths.
Okay.
And now that changes everything. You thought life was tough.
It got even worse.
It escalated, and Dedan Kimathi at this point became a wanted man, and they knew he was the one leading the regiment that killed Deriwang Obe. So they would put a 10,000 shilling reward on his head. Now he's a wanted man.
And just to define the state of emergency that was declared in 52, it really was a nationwide curfew and limited movement, limited association. So it made it very difficult for, basically it was imposed to limit the infiltration and the free movement of people in general.
Yeah.
So life became even more tough than before.
This is where you're seeing passbook really come into focus. You can't move from district to district within your own land. You can't go from Nyeri to Kiambu without passing through a check.
What does that remind you of? It's the COVID restrictions.
Yeah, pretty much. It was tough.
Right.
It was, the COVID restrictions, which a lot of Kenyans complained about.
Right.
It's the same sort of thing that was happening in 52.
Yeah, and you have to have like a note on your passbook from whoever your employer is, saying that yes, I have approved this guy to move to go visit, I don't know, his mother, whatever it is that you wanted to go back home to do.
Right.
You couldn't unless your employer has said, he's allowed to do it. And anyway, and this is where now the genius of people like Dedan Kimathi comes in, because they knew how to forge these kinds of writings and write letters.
Yes.
And when the organization part has a lot to do with ability to circumvent these rules that were being placed on you.
Yeah.
These guys were very good at it. Forging letters was like a daily thing. Forging passbooks, making new ones so that your guys can move around.
Yeah.
But it is at this point, after Operation Jock Scott is launched, that a lot of people, especially the Aberdare area, North Teto, those people, the divisions around Nyeri district, they just flew right into the forest, including my dad's two brothers, two elder brothers. That's the day they went, we're in 100%. And they all went into the forest. The two were Moturi and Kafara. So they went in. Operation Jock Scott was a scorched earth campaign. We're talking about heavy aerial bombing. And it's not at the way you're imagining. Sometimes they show us just askaris and mostly black men with just one Mzungu leading them going into a forest. It wasn't that. It was a major operation. They brought in regiments from England, from India, from Tanganyika, from Uganda. They brought in jets.
What?
Yes.
It was a real military warfare.
Proper,
It was
100%.
a war.
It was a proper war.
Yeah.
And they had all this post-World War II hardware that they were bringing in. There were tanks, there were everything. And they knew they had in fact, there was an idea to flatten Mount Kenya forest. Like just trauma the whole forest.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that was what they were saying. They're hiding there, just aerial bomb the thing and just choma the whole thing. And they tried.
Just carpet bomb, basically.
They did. They tried. They threw so many bombs in there.
Oh my gosh.
In Kikuyu, we used to call them degashia gekonyo, the airplanes with the mokoyo, because they would open the belly and they would drop a bomb.
Yeah.
In fact, there's a very funny story that they tell about how one day my dad is telling me how the Mau Mau regiment that the younger of the brothers was in Kavara, he was fighting under a general called Gaita Bomu, who was one of the lieutenants of Dedan Kimathi. Mm-hmm. And then the other brother was fighting directly under Dedan Kimathi. Mm-hmm. Remember that he knew them from childhood. Mm-hmm. So these were trusted to him.
Right.
So, but Gaita Bomu's regiment often used to come through my dad's village. Mm-hmm. And one time they came with a gunia that was carrying an exploded bomb that had been dropped.
Like a shell. Like a bomb shell. Yeah.
It hadn't exploded. Mm-hmm. So, and there was because he used to come there all the time to be fed. And the plan was, okay, what do we do? But now the propaganda was that Mau Mau, they've been able to create rifles, they've designed bombs, and now they have even a massive tan bomb that they have now made themselves. Yeah. You know, Mau Mau ena bomb. Yeah. Now that was now the story that was now booming everywhere. Mau Maus have now gotten bombs. This fight is about to change. And so what they did, apparently, they're trying to figure out what to do with this bomb. They don't know how to detonate it. One guy said, these things are all about fire. So they took a lot of paraffin, funga it with the magunia, poured the thing in front of them when they set it in a strategic area and just lit it on fire, and the thing lipukad. And they were like, wow. And people were like, oh my God, this is happening. We have bombs, Wow. And it was such a moment where people just...
Collective hope.
Yeah, collective hope that we can do something about this. That was General Gaita Bomu. I think he's the guy who... That's why he got the name. Yeah. But now they're out there, they're fighting.
In the forest.
Bombers are coming in. And, but there was this really scary night that my father told me about where, there were staggering casualties following the bombing. One man in particular they call Modara. He was an elder. All day he had been in pensive fear. And when that evening the bombing started, he just urinated himself.
Wow.
And people were so shocked because it was completely out of character. I mean, you don't expect that from an elder, especially an elder of his stature. But it turns out he lost 9 sons that day.
Wow. From the bombing.
9. And that's what he had felt in his heart.
Yeah.
But the next day they found out, 9 sons died.
Yeah.
And on that day, unfortunately, the same day, my uncle Kavara died. And also because of that particular carpet bombing that was happening in the forest. And soon after that, my other uncle was actually captured and sent to Manyani concentration camp, where he would be tortured for 5 years to give up Mau Mau.
Wow.
Yeah. But that, it was a heavy price for people.
I think that's the big thing, is to realize what people gave up for us. I think sometimes we don't recognize how bad it was. Yeah. And that's why I'm loving this story, just to help us see the magnitude of what they had to face for us to be here today.
Yeah.
I'll add some context. There's a song, there's a group that used to sing traditional Kikuyu songs for the first president of Kenya, Jomo Kenyatta. They were called Nyakenyua. You can actually find their albums on YouTube. And a few years ago, I was listening to their songs. And, you can, when these stories are told, you might think the war happened in a month, 2 months, a week. So the song goes like this. They're singing. They're like, Meaka, it's called Meaka, which is years, right? So they sing, Miaka mugwanja twatũraga gĩthaka twanagĩrĩrwo na ndege tũgĩtagwo Mau Mau twameretie guoya wũĩ nyamũ cia gĩthaka. Like basically they were in the forest fearing bombs, and planes would come and be like, hey, the Mau Mau are here. They start bombing. It wasn't a day's affair. It was years. Years of fear, years of living in the forest. Some of the Mau, when they came out from the forest in 1963, they didn't have any clothes. Yeah. Imagine living in that fear for a whole decade, for example, from 1952 to 1963, in the forest near Badea. You don't have a shower, you don't have a change of clothes. You're dealing with animals, and the weather, rain. Can you just picture that picture of how they were living and how determined they still were to resist this occupation?
I mean, think about us. If think about how us, you skip one meal or two, you think you've. Right?
The world is over.
You don't shower one day, you think, right? And to recognize just the commitment and the suffering they put themselves under for us to have this freedom. I'm just going to say this on the side and then we'll go back to the story of Dedan, but I have friends whose family were part of the Mau Mau, the fighters, these. And now I can start to understand where there is some of this anger for their people being left behind once we had independence. Because you can imagine all that sacrifice and then you're left behind.
Yeah.
What was it for?
Yeah.
Anyway.
That energy is still in their descendants to this day.
It is. Those sentiments are very real till today.
Yeah.
But that's... Dedan Kimathi rose to this particular occasion in brilliant fashion because they would formally form Kenya Land and Freedom Army. And he rose very fast through the ranks. He coordinated things. They even had a constitution. They had clear military, precise guidelines, rules of engagement. Like one of the things that they did, there's even a song that said, even if one bean was what they had, they used to share it. They had the highest standards of discipline and camaraderie and brotherhood, even when they were first, and sisterhood. There were women who were actually fighters in there with them. I know most of the time we hear about women supplying them food and information, but it was even women fighters.
And we'll mention them.
We'll mention some of these people as we go. Even children, because my father is one of those kids who was a scout. They would be asked to go and give coordinates. How many soldiers did you see? That kind of stuff. And they would feed that information back. And Mau Mau was not always in the forest. There were also some people who were turncoats. People who there were higas within them. People who were pretending to be colonial, but they were actually Mau Mau informants and vice versa. Right? A lot of that was happening. So to navigate these things as a leader, Kimathi did very well. So by 1954, he'd been given the title of Field Marshal Dedan Kimathi Matemo, Knight Commander of the African Empire. That was his official title. They were not playing. They were not thinking Kenya alone. They were thinking about the demise of the British Empire. They were well aware of what they were trying to do here. So anyway, he did a lot. Established a lot of fighting camps. Apparently, he had I think there were 8 armies. There were people like General Mwariama in Meru. Embu had their own people. In Kirinyaga, there were so many regiments very well positioned. In Kiambu, there were operations, and this thing was very well coordinated and had one leader, which was Field Marshal Dedan Kimathi. Wow! Something it happened so fast. And he even reached, I would say, mythical status while he was alive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because, he was hitting police stations, he was raiding small armories, they were getting guns, they were creating their own guns and manufacturing their own guns. They were very effective. If you go to a place like in Nairobi, the archives, Kenya National Archives, you'll see those guns, some samples of the guns that they were making. They were actually, they worked, and they did kill settlers. It was a very primary target to do that. They decided they were going to use fear as the main tactic. They also killed a lot of loyalists, a lot of Kikuyus who were loyalists. In fact, those were the most casualties in this particular engagement. But, and then in all of this, he still had humor because, on finding out that the colonial government did not have a photo of him, he sent them one of himself.
That's hilarious.
Yeah. So, you're like, here you go. Make sure you make a nice, good poster.
Put it in the New York Times.
But when I say mythical status, there were people who thought he could disguise himself as a white man.
Okay.
Those are the stories that were like, Kimathi can change.
Right.
Immediately, he can even pass here.
Na dokumenya.
And it was Johnny, like you wouldn't tell because they were like he can even turn himself into being a leopard.
Yeah.
Actually, one story that's told about him is he could make or imitate all the animals in the forest.
Yeah.
So the colonial administration, the guards would be coming to look for him, searching for Mau Mau. And he would make the trumpet of an elephant, and they'd be freaked out.
But it was just him.
Yeah.
Or he would sound like a rhino, and rhinos are feared
Yeah.
because they'll run you over. And so the mythical stories that are told about Dedan Kimathi are legendary.
Yeah. And the leopard one was really real because he did have leopard skins on him. It was not understood. This was also esoteric. What he was, leopard skins go back in many African traditions. Elders wore leopard skins, and even and warriors who in leadership did that. It carries a lot of meaning.
Yeah.
But they kind of started. Wazungu would believe that he can be in multiple places at the same time. Because they would hear he was here and then
could teleport.
In the afternoon, it's like he's here.
Right.
And so there was a lot of fear about Dedan Kimathi that was created. And he was the original Black Panther. Yeah. This guy, they feared him, know. But but sadly, he would be arrested.
When was he arrested?
So this was October 21st, 1956. And he was shot by a guy called Dirago. Who was working under, there was an overzealous colonial guy called Ian Henderson, who really all he did was hunt for Dedan Kimathi. He didn't even focus on anything else, and so eventually they trapped him, and he was actually in his hometown of Karonaine. So in Karonaine forest, I've actually been to the spot where he was shot, because where he was shot in his leg. Where they caught up with him, where he had been bleeding.
Yeah.
I've been to that spot, and it's true. Nothing grows there.
Wow.
It's in the middle of a tea bush, and that spot doesn't grow anything. When I was 17, I went there. It was in the middle of a tea bush, and it was a bare spot. And even recently, as an adult, now there's a monument they've built there, but it's the same. It doesn't grow anything, and nobody's doing it, not even grass. It's bare soil.
Wow.
So again, this adds to this myth, of who this guy was. But anyway, when he was shot, he was arrested. I think he had a machete on him, but it wasn't in a rifle or a gun, a revolver actually, and that's what he was charged with. The official charge was having an illegal firearm because they can't prove anything else.
Right.
So he was taken away in a stretcher. There was a lot of propaganda stuff being distributed to demoralize Mau Mau about it.
Yeah, they took pictures of him and
Yeah.
videos, the videos that we see.
Yeah, those videos we see now, they were, propagandized, and people were really disheartened. The Mau effort, it really suffered when
Took a big blow.
It took a big blow when he was arrested. Then, of course, there's a trial, which everyone will tell you was a sham trial. Some guy called Justice O'Connor was the guy who was given that, and then an all jury Kenyan, all black jury. But when we talk about juries, the way evidence was gathered against most of these Mau Mau folks was through people we call like acumen. You may have heard that term. Acumen were people who literally were draped in gunias, a garni sack, and with little holes.
Yeah.
And they would just literally, whoever this person is under that garni
Yeah.
would give testimony against you.
Yeah.
And would say, yeah, that guy's Mau Mau.
Yeah.
And that's it. You're done. They didn't need
Any other.
anything else. So the threshold for finding you guilty
It was very low.
was very low.
Yeah.
They had what seemed like a legitimate, they needed to have a good show.
Yeah.
He was found guilty and was actually sentenced to death at this point. So there's a book by Kikuyu and Michelle Mogo, they wrote a book called the Trial of Dedan Kimathi. It paints a very heroic Dedan Kimathi, because even an extraordinary man. When he was sentenced to death, he actually laughed, and that's it. That's all he did. He just laughed at the judge, like, "Come on, what is that? That's nothing." And so, but there was a legal appeal lodged against the death sentence, but it didn't go through. And so it became clear he was going to be executed. And on the day of execution, he wrote a letter to some guy called Father Marino, asking him to get his son an education. He only had one son, Waciûri. I think he had 6 daughters. One of the daughters we know about the most is called Waciûri. She right now leads a lot of efforts to rehabilitate and secure lands for Mau Mau fighters.
Wow,
yeah,
that's good.
So he said, yeah, I am asking you to educate my son. He also wrote a letter to Mokami and about Mokami to this guy, telling him that, hey, Mokami has been detained as well. She's at Committee.
She was in prison at the time.
That they were both in the same prison, Committee Maximum Prison.
Yeah, and that's his wife.
His wife.
Mhm.
Yeah. And he suspected that they were going to release her.
Yeah.
And was asking this Father Marino, I'd like her to be comforted by the sisters of the Catholic Church. Because and she was saying, the particular sister called Sister Modesta, who they knew. She was saying, well, Sister Modesta is lonely, and I'm sure my wife is going to be lonely after this. Maybe you can hook them up, right? So, those were he thought, and then he asked to see his wife, and he did. And then that morning of the execution, they chatted for about 2 hours, and one of the things that he told her was that, in quote, I have no doubt in my mind that the British are determined to execute me. I've committed no crime. My only crime is that I am a Kenyan revolutionary who led a liberation army.
Wow.
Now I must leave you and my family. I have nothing to regret about. My blood will water the tree of independence. And those are his last famous words that we know about. So in 57, February 18, he was reported hanged at Committee Maximum Prison. And that's really where the official story of Dedan Kimathi ends. But not the end of his legacy, and not the end of even his mythic status. Like, there's this gentleman who is a chairman of Mau Mau Veterans Association. He's called Elijah Kenyua. He was General Bahati back then. He says, no, Dedan Kimathi wasn't killed that day. He wasn't hung. Because, they don't know where he was buried.
Yeah.
They say it was an unmarked grave.
Yeah.
He said no. What he says is that what happened is that Queen Elizabeth was adamant that she wanted to see this Kimathi who was so defiant against the empire. And so he believes that they took him and probably to go parade him out there in the private courts. Yeah. But that's it. I mean, that's the story of Kimathi. What was he fighting for? I must remind everyone there were three things. Gedhaka, which is land. Weadhi, which is freedom. And Magogona. Magogona are our shrines.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And our rituals, like our way of life.
That's right. Yeah.
Wow. I mean, I don't have anything to add. What a story.
Yeah.
What sacrifice. What a legend, right, of a man. I mean, any final words, Wayaki?
Yeah, the only thing I'll say, I think something that's not put into the public domain as much is he was a prolific writer. So one of the ways he was able to strategize and bring all these people together is he would write letters. He knew how to communicate. He knew how to organize. I think apart from his courage, his prowess as a leader, he was also able to manage and organize and communicate effectively. And there are many books published where his letters have been published. And you can read them and see how smart he was, how intelligent and compassionate too. So yeah, he was a prolific writer as well. Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you, King Ori, for sharing this powerful story of Dedan Kimathi. And thank you, Wayaki, for your contributions.
Thank you.
So at this point, we are coming up to the next hero. So Wayaki,
Yes.
who is the next hero that we'll be talking about?
So as a follow-up to this episode, we'll be talking about Mokami Kimathi, who was Dedan Kimathi's wife. She was also a freedom fighter. And we'll also talk about the only field marshal the only woman who became a field marshal in the resistance movement.
I can't wait. Well, listen to the end and we'll see you on the next episode.